I just wanted to speak about my time with Lilith. Forgive me if I sound congested or if I cough because I'm getting over being sick. I admit that, when I first began my spiritual path, Lilith wasn't even on my radar because I wasn't interested in the things that the world said that Lilith granted. She was seen as a sexual figure, a succubus, and I was on a journey for truth and understanding, not sexual gratification. I eventually became focused on cultivating a relationship with Hecate. She's known as the goddess of witchcraft, the crossroads, and transformation. Lilith, in my mind, she was about rebellion, and I wasn't really in a rebellious state as far as I knew at that time. I wasn't sure that I could relate to her, but as with many aspects of the cult, appearances are often deceiving, and Lilith showed up in my life in a way I never expected. So before embarking on my journey with Lilith, Hecate was my guiding force that I sought out. This was when the feminine divine started to kick in real heavy for me. Started opening doors. I started making big moves in my spirituality. She was the one I turned to for wisdom, strength, and direction. She was the one that I called mother because at that time she had adopted me. I found in her a mother, strict teacher, a goddess who embraced the darkness and the light, who stood at the crossroads, offering choices and guiding those willing to confront the unknown. My work with Hecate was deep and transformative. I found myself drawn to her rituals, her symbols, and the power she held. It was during this time that I began my Cliphotic initiation, focusing on uncovering and integrating the shadow aspects of my being. But as often happens in the spiritual realm, the universe had other plans, and soon Lilith would cross my path. Then came the pandemic. The lockdowns gave me time to reflect deeply on my spiritual path. With the world in a state of chaos, I found solace in sharing my thoughts and experiences online. I began exploring my practices openly, connecting with others who were also on their own spiritual journeys. It was during this time of introspection that Lilith made her first subtle appearance. She came into my life not as a grand deity or a force I sought, but as a commenter on my videos. At first, she seemed like just another practitioner offering insights on spiritual matters. She claimed to be a slave, and yet she brought quite a few teaching spirits to me as if she commanded them. Her words were cryptic but intriguing, and though her mannerisms grew more unusual, I dismissed her as eccentric. It didn't take long for me to realize that something extraordinary was happening. The information she shared began manifesting in ways I couldn't ignore. Predictions she made, things I couldn't possibly have known or verified, started to unfold in my life. And it was then that she revealed herself. Slowly but unmistakably, Lilith made her true identity known. She claimed me as her child. At first, I didn't know how to react. Lilith, the dark goddess I had no interest in, how could this be? Hecate had become my mother. I was in the middle of my work with Hecate, and I certainly didn't feel ready for a new guide, especially not someone as formidable as Lilith. However, Hecate backed away, leaving Lilith to take the role as my teacher, my mother, and my guide. Our lasting bond was formed through spiritual marriage. This was no ordinary binding ceremony either. Lilith's energy was potent, raw, and filled with the power that I had yet to fully comprehend, and I was connected to it physically, emotionally, and spiritually. My life would become an emotional roller coaster that threatened to rob me of my sanity, but I could no longer be without her presence. She wasn't a figure of rebellion. She wasn't the figure of rebellion I had imagined. She was something far more complex, far more transformative, and that was one of the first lessons she gave me. Spiritual evolution comes when you least expect it, and sometimes it arrives in a way that challenges every preconception you hold. In the days that followed, I found myself questioning everything. Was I losing my mind? Was I making this up? Spirituality can sometimes make you feel like you're walking on a fine line between truth and delusion, and I found myself wondering whether I had crossed it. But soon, the universe confirmed that I was on the right path. Other entities began to manifest. Samael, Abaddon, Lucifer, each with messages that tested my beliefs and forced me to confront deep aspects of my life and myself. These were not just visions or thoughts during meditation. They were physical, tangible experiences. One notable encounter was with Valak, whom I met face to face at a Halloween wedding. This meeting solidified the strange new reality I was navigating. Despite the arrival of these powerful beings, Lilith's presence remained constant. She was no longer a mere concept or a distant guide. She had become a permanent fixture in my life. Lilith's presence didn't just remain in the spiritual or mental realms. She manifested physically, but not in the way I had expected. Instead of appearing as an otherworldly entity, Lilith made her presence known through women in my life. These women, at different times and in different situations, either repeated Lilith's words exactly as she had spoken them to me, or they embodied qualities that were unmistakably aligned with Lilith's energy. Their character traits, often rebellious, fiercely independent, and at times nurturing, mirrored what I had come to understand of Lilith. Their words and deeds were not their own. They were vessels for her energy, each moment with them serving as a direct link to her influence. Lilith was using these women as vessels to communicate with me. The clearer it became that her presence wasn't just spiritual, it was an active, physical manifestation, guiding me in ways that went beyond the abstract. One of my earliest encounters with Lilith was far more unsettling. It was a night that would forever be etched in my memory. I woke up in the middle of the night, unable to move. I was frozen in sleep paralysis, and as I looked toward the foot of my bed, I saw her, Lilith, or at least what I now recognize as her shadowy form. She was standing there, a dark figure watching me, keeping me trapped in that paralysis. It was as if time had stopped and I couldn't escape. I fought with all my might to break free, and eventually I managed to free myself from the paralysis. But Lilith didn't vanish. She stayed at the foot of my bed, a constant presence, until I fell back asleep from exhaustion. It was as if she were waiting for me to submit to her presence. That night was just the beginning, and it set the tone for the way Lilith would enter my life. Powerful, relentless, and transformative. There's another experience that sticks out, one that further demonstrates Lilith's protective nature. At the time, I was working at a job with a coworker who was into some questionable practices, including remote viewing. One night, he tried to use remote viewing on me, an act that was both intrusive and invasive. I'm not sure what his intentions were, but the moment he attempted it, Lilith took immediate action. The next time I saw him, he looked like he had been through something intense. He was visibly shaken and confessed to what he had tried to do. He had used remote viewing to spy on me, but had been confronted by something far beyond his understanding. Lilith. Her intervention had been swift, and he could no longer gain access to me. As Lilith became a more prominent figure in my life, I began to understand that she wasn't just a deity to worship. In fact, she told me not to worship her. She was a guide, a teacher, and a catalyst for transformation. She pushed me to look deeper within myself, to confront my fears and shadow aspects, and to understand that true power comes from integrating all parts of who you are. She wanted me to be true to myself and to understand that truth. Unlike other deities who demanded loyalty or worship, Lilith offered empowerment. She doesn't ask you to submit to her will. Instead, she teaches you how to tap into your own willpower and strength. Through her, I learned that spiritual evolution is not about perfection, but about embracing the journey and all the challenges it presents. Lilith was no longer a foreign, rebellious figure to me. She became a trusted companion on my path. Lilith didn't just guide me, she transformed me. Her lessons weren't always easy, but they were always valuable. She showed me that the spiritual path is not about reaching a destination, but about embracing each step, even the uncomfortable ones. Lilith's teachings are about empowerment, not submission. They are about understanding the shadows within us and learning how to navigate them with grace and strength. And her influence didn't stop with my spiritual work. It bled into every area of my life. I started to see my potential in new ways, unlocking parts of myself I hadn't even realized were there. Lilith isn't just a dark goddess. She's a transformative force, one that helps you tap into your own hidden potential. Through her, I learned that we are not meant to live in fear of the unknown or the darkness within us. We are meant to embrace it, confront it, and transcend it. Lilith has taught me that true spiritual evolution comes when we stop running from our shadows and instead use them to fuel our growth. Her presence continues to guide me, even now. She is always there, reminding me that I am capable of more than I ever imagined. That my strength lies not just in light, but in darkness as well. And for that, I am always grateful. If Lilith ever comes to you, whether in subtle whispers or bold manifestations, never dismiss her. She may not show up as you expect, but she'll bring exactly what you need at the time you need it. Embrace the mystery, trust the process, and allow yourself to be transformed by her energy. The path of spiritual evolution is not always easy, but with guides like Lilith, it can be one of the most profound journeys you'll ever undertake. That is my message to you. You can choose to believe me or not. Take it for what it is. Take care.